Men and women write differently in their novels, and something I found interesting was this. I would be critiquing a lot of authors' chapters, and they would be critiquing mine when I was writing my novel. And the most common mistake or thing that I found strange with men was this. The average man, and not all of them, but just something that I found in common with many of them. One of the big mistakes a lot of men did was they would have the self insert. They tended to live out their fantasy in their story, especially if they were a new author they hadn't written before. They tended to write their own fantasy instead of just write fantasy. So all the women would swoon after them. They could do no wrong, kind of like that Gary Sue, Mary Sue, whatever that that mindset was. But they would often be perfect and just good at everything, and I could tell it was everything they wanted to be in their story, and so it was very interesting. But one was so cringe where all these women all had a crush on him. Everything revolved around him, and everyone's conversation was about him. And I could tell the guy was just living out his own fantasy. So that's something I found with men. With women, the biggest error, or just something that was off with a lot of women's chapters, was over description. They would describe everything in way too much detail. And I'm not talking about flowery prose or something beautiful. I'm talking like an entire page dedicated to describing a street. A street that you never go back to. You never see that street again. But an entire page was designated to every stone and every piece of wood and the smells and everything. And it wasn't important. And I'm thinking, why is there so much description? Is this an important scene? Are we going to come back there? No, they never came back there. They just overly described it and then they moved on. And it was getting very irritating for me. Like, get to the point. Can we have some action? Or is everything description? So that's the most common thing that I see. With guys, it was often self-insert. Women tend to be over-description. Again, this is general, 8 out of 10, I would say, had it to some extent. Not to a crazy extent, but to some extent, I found this very fascinating.